Hi, I'm Colleen. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This video is part of a series on executive functioning. Today I will be talking specifically about memory and strategies to help you remember things. If that sounds interesting to you, stick around. Memory is one of the components that make up executive functioning. There are two types of memory. There's working memory and then there's long-term memory. Your working memory is something that you keep in your brain just long enough to do something with it. So if somebody asks you to do some mental math, then you are using your working memory. Long-term memory is the goal of learning, right? It's information that will stick with you for a very long time. Kids who have executive dysfunction have some trouble with their memory skills, but there are some ways to help you compensate for that. There are strategies that you can use to help you to remember things. One strategy is to use music. Music is really great for helping you to remember things. You probably enjoy listening to music already, so this is a great strategy for you to use. You've already used it in the past because when you learned the alphabet, you learned the song A, B, C, D, and even today adults still sing the song, believe it or not. So using music is a great way to store information in your long-term memory. You can also use a mnemonic. A mnemonic is something that helps you to remember because the words that you use sound similar. I'm sure you've already learned some mnemonics while you were in school. For example, I before E except after C, or when sounded as A, as in neighbor and way. So it's a little rhyme that helps you to remember it. Or it might be something that sounds similar to the word that you're trying to remember. So a website that I love to use is multiplication.com. It's great for helping students learn their multiplication tables, students who struggle with just memorizing information. And one of the things that they do on that particular website is to create mnemonics. Each of the numbers is associated with an object like 2 shoe or 6 chicks. It's a mnemonic because it sounds like the word that you're trying to remember. A mnemonic helps your brain to retrieve the information. Here are a few examples of mnemonics. Fanboys and Isa Boo Boo Wawa can help you remember the coordinating conjunctions. You can use a rhyme for a phonics rule, such as when two vowels go a-walking, the first one does the talking and the second one is silent. There are also mnemonics for common spelling errors, like mentioned before, I before E except after C, or when sounding like A as in neighbor and way. Or somebody is a friend to the end. Dessert has 2 S's in it because you always want more dessert. I lost an E in the argument. You have to be here before you get there, or you hear with your ear. You can also learn the order of the planets. My very educated mother just served us noodles means Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. You can learn the order of operations with the sentence, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. You can also learn the compass rose with never eat soggy waffles. That means north, east, south, and west. Another strategy to help you remember information is to create a story. Our brains are wired to remember stories and to tell stories. That's why we really enjoy reading and listening to stories. A story is helpful because it gives meaning and context. And your brain does better with remembering information if there's meaning and context behind it. So if you can create a story about what you're trying to remember, that's a great way to remember the information. And you can create your own stories, or you can look online for some stories that are already made for you. Here is an example of a story that I created myself for the process of digestion. Once upon a time, there was an apple. She got lost in the chewing forest. After she was covered in saliva and mashed into bits, she slid down the esophagus slide. She landed in the acidic stomach. There, she swam around in the stomach acids, and she turned into a mushy liquid called chyme. She slid down into the duodenum tunnel. Some enzymes from the liver, pancreas, and gallbladder surrounded her. She slid through the tunnel and entered the small intestines, also known as the jejunum. The walls of the small intestines pushed her through. She was broken down into small molecules during this part of her journey. Her nutrients were taken out of her, passed through the villi, and absorbed by the bloodstream. She entered the large intestine, and her water passed through the walls. The rest of her continued until she entered the rectum. All that was left of her was the bits that the body could not digest. She finally escaped through the anus, but she was no longer the apple that she had started out as. This is a more simplified version of how digestion goes, but you get the idea. There's also a couple of links here that have some other examples of stories that you could use to help you remember things. Another strategy to help you remember things is to use a list. I'm sure that you've seen a lot of adults make lists all the time, right? I make a grocery list because I might forget things. I can make my grocery list while I'm still in my kitchen and then take it with me to the grocery store and make sure that I get all of the items on that list. You can do the same thing for yourself when you need to remember information, a lot of information about a particular topic. You can write the list down. I like to use sticky notes too. Sometimes I have sticky notes on my computer screen or on my desk someplace. Some members of my family use a sticky note and they put it on like the bathroom mirror because they'll see that every day and they will remember whatever it is that's on that sticky note. Sometimes we put a sticky note on the door as you're leaving so that you can do a quick check that you have all of the items that you need or that you didn't forget the one thing that you don't bring every day. It's something new and different that you have to bring. You don't just have to use a list for learning things in school. You can also use your list for things in your own life. Another great strategy that will help you remember information is to make a game. Sometimes I'll make 2 sets of flashcards so that I have, for example, the word I'm learning on one card and the definition on another card, and then I'll just play Go Fish with a friend, or I'll play Memory or Concentration by myself. If you can attach fun to the experience of learning, you're more likely to remember it because emotions help us remember information better. Here are some examples of some games that you can make to help you remember things. You could play Go Fish or Concentration. You could create a bingo game or trivia. Pictionary and charades really are helpful for vocabulary, and you can create dice games to help you with math. Another strategy to help you remember things is to use visuals. I've had students who had to fill in a United States map, and that can be very difficult for some students who struggle with remembering information. So we were looking for patterns and pictures in the shapes of the states. We were looking for things that would remind the student about what the name of the state was. For example, Massachusetts looks like a strong arm, somebody with their arm up. And that helped the student to be able to recognize those states more readily. You can also draw a picture that goes with the information. If you ever use the website Quizlet and you look up already made flashcards, many times a student or a teacher has used a picture with the word or the phrase or the information that you're supposed to use. That helps your brain to remember things. That's really important because some people are visual learners, and so you'll do better with learning new information or remembering new information if you have a visual to go along with it. There are multiple ways that you can incorporate visuals into your learning. For example, you can add some pictures into a word that you're trying to learn the meaning of or that you're trying to learn to read. You could use a visual to help you know the difference between a B and a D. You could use icons to tell you to write or to color. You could even use a pie chart to help you understand some information. There are other graphics that you can use, such as a hierarchy, which would be great for science, and a timeline, which would be great for history class. There are other strategies you can use to help you remember things. For example, you can add movement into your learning. So writing with chalk can help you learn spelling. You can say something like cations are positive, as if you were a cat, and then you can move your hand like a cat's paw. You can point to your muscle groups while you recite the names of those groups. You can also make an action that goes with a new vocabulary word that you're learning. You can use your thumbs to help you know the difference between a B and a D. You could even make Play-Doh letters or numbers. One last memory strategy that I'm going to mention in this video is repeating information. Repetition can help you to remember things. Remember when you were learning your multiplication facts or your addition and subtraction facts, you had to repeat them again and again and again. You want to repeat the information as many different ways and as many times as possible. Recite what you are learning. So hearing it and saying it adds two different ways that you're getting the information in, and you are repeating it. Write the information over and over again. I used to write my Spanish vocabulary multiple times so that I could learn the definitions and the spelling of the words. You can read your notes multiple times to make sure that you remember the information. Draw pictures. That goes great with vocabulary, or even you can draw a chart that can help you remember something in science. Use your flashcards, but remember to use them over and over again. Continue repeating this information even if you think that you've already learned it. This is called overlearning, and when you overlearn, then you can recall the information even if you're very stressed or concerned or nervous about the situation. So repeating the information helps to store the information in your brain. Today we talked about several strategies that you can use to help you with your memory skills. The memory strategies we talked about include mnemonics, storytelling, creating lists, playing games, using visuals, adding movement, and repetition. I hope this video was helpful and gave you lots of information about memory strategies so that you can be a more effective student and more efficient in your day-to-day life. And if you really like this video, please give me a like. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe to my channel. If you ring the bell, you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. So thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!